Well, after a 6-month investigation, Center for American Progress has now released a 130-page report following the money trail of 7 organizations who have fueled more than $40 million into what they call the Islamophobia network. And those foundations are the Donors Capital Fund, the Richard Mellon Scaife Foundation, the Lynne and Harry Bradley Foundation, the Newton and Rochelle Becker Foundation and Newton and Rochelle Becker Charitable Trust, the Russel Berrie Foundation, the Anchorage Charitable Fund, and William Rosenwald Family Fund, and the Fairbrook Foundation. Now, this report also highlights 5 so-called experts: Frank Gaffney, Daniel Pipes, David Yerushalmi, Robert Spencer, and Steve Emerson.
So these organizations, these foundations, they provide a lot of the seed money for the operations of Frank Gaffney to exist. Frank Gaffney has an operation called the Center for Security Policy. Daniel Pipes has an operation called the Middle East Forum. Steve Emerson has an operation called the Investigative Project on Terrorism. Those operations exist because they got seed money from these foundations sometimes years ago, which they continue to receive. And we know that because they're filed publicly with the IRS. We looked at these IRS forms and found that a lot of these foundations are giving money to these same groups. It's the same interconnected group of allies that are receiving the money.
Now, were you able to figure out why, right? I mean, obviously there are the public faces. The Frank Gaffneys are the people that we see on TV that are so-called experts these days in the media, but there has to be some reason behind funneling money there, right? There has to be some benefit that these foundations or the people behind them receive.
It seems like there's only 2 possibilities here with regards to the funders. They either know what they are funding and they are happy to do so but didn't want their names to be disclosed. Well, congratulations, your names are now disclosed. Or they didn't actually know what they were funding. That Frank Gaffney went before them and said, hey, listen, I want to work on national security issues in America. Give me some money, I'm going to make it happen. The funder said, okay, we like you, here's some money. And they didn't know that he was going to turn around and use that to do creeping Sharia reports and threats of mosques in America. So what we're trying to do is say, okay, funders, you're now put on notice. We've named you and we've shown you how your money is being used to conspire and produce hate. And now it is your turn. Are you for it or against it?
Now, the radio show host that Congressman King was talking to in that clip we just played is this man, Frank Gaffney, who's long been raising concerns that America's institutions are being infiltrated by radical Muslims. Lately, he's been sounding the bell again, this time charging that radical Muslims who want to bring Sharia law to the United States are working their way into conservative circles, including the Conservative Political Action Conference, or CPAC. Gaffney is pointing a finger in particular at this man, Suhail Khan, a conservative political activist who served as a senior political appointee in the Bush administration. Khan sits now on the board of the American Conservative Union, or ACU, the group that runs CPAC.
He spoke very approvingly of a gentleman by the name of Faisal Abdul Rauf, a man we didn't know very well at the time, but we've heard a lot about since, because he is a Muslim Brotherhood operative trying to bring Sharia to America. And again, don't take my word for it. That's what his book, What's Right with Islam is Right with America,
you're talking about the man,
Khan,
sir, you're talking about the imam
on that occasion.
You're talking about the imam who's sent by the U.S. State Department overseas to represent the United States.
That's right. I am indeed.
So sneaky.
Would you suggest that that's a problem? I think it is. If we're actually using Muslim Brotherhood operatives to promote their version of what should happen to America, it would be a travesty, and yet that's exactly what we're doing.
A lot of your evidence amounts to, like, people who introduced him at a speech that he made. I've had people introduce me at speeches. I have no idea who they are.
Right,
if they go on 2 years from now to rob a bank, am I somehow a culprit in that? You've had people, I'm sure, introduce you at speeches, and you have no idea.
4,000 people are dead because of the way you feel.
There are 4,000 people dead.
You're wrong about this because you don't even seem to care that your facts were wrong.
Chris, there are 4,000 people.
You admit your facts were wrong, and it doesn't bother you.
I keep state my position rather than you state it for me, Chris. May I do that?
No, you.
My position is it is regrettable that any Americans died. It is regrettable that they had to die, but I believe they did have to die. The threat we did know about was the chemical capability that Saddam Hussein had used against his own people.
Could not survive without the territories of the West Bank, the Golan Heights, and Gaza that they had obtained during that war. That stands as truth today as much as it did in 1967. We ignored it at our peril. Just to follow up on my friend Tom Trento's plug for this book, Sharia, The Threat to America,